Hello all, my name is Jessica Castillo and this is my Lest We Forget project. The figure I have chosen is Margaret Sanger. She was an American birth control activist, sex educator, writer, and nurse. Margaret was also the face of birth control and the founder of Planned Parenthood. I use videos on YouTube, the history of eugenics, and Bailey Sarian's Dark History episode about the origins of birth control. I also used articles from USA Today and Britannica on Margaret Sanger. Although Margaret Sanger claimed to have good intentions for the healthcare of women, her actions spoke louder than words and showed that she was actually racially biased and a eugenicist. Margaret Sanger was born September 14, 1879 in Corning, New York. She was sixth of 11 children, and her mother died at a very young age of 49. Margaret went on to be a nurse. She practiced obstetrical nursing on the Lower East Side of New York City. Margaret then started to realize how bad the healthcare system was, especially for women. There in New York, she witnessed the relationship between poverty, uncontrolled fertility, high rates of infant and maternal mortality, and the deaths from botched illegal abortions. Margaret then devoted herself to removing legal barriers to publicize the facts about contraception. Margaret Sanger owned her own magazine, The Woman Rebel, with the slogan, "No gods, no masters." In 1914, this radical journal encouraged personal autonomy for women through the use of birth control, a phrase she invented to give them an easy way of talking about a delicate subject. When the Great War ended, men came home with STDs, and the military introduced sex education to men. Margaret used this opportunity to really introduce America to the idea of birth control. In 1921, Margaret states the most urgent problem today is how to limit and discourage the overfertility of the mentally and physically defective. She also spoke at a Woman of the Ku Klux Klan rally in 1926. In 1924, the Immigration Act was set in place and reduced how many immigrants were allowed in the United States each year. Also limited immigration from precisely those countries that were thought to have a higher portion of the unfit through a quota system. At this time, 2/3 of American states had a eugenic sterilization law. Also, in 1926, there was a case of Buck versus Bell that determined Carrie Bell, a feeble-minded woman who was committed to the state, and her condition was present for the last 3 generations. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes states in 1937, after the case came to a close, "It is better for all the world if, instead of waiting to execute degenerate offspring for crime, or to let them starve for the imbecility, society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough." With scientist Gregory Pincus, who, with Margaret, created the pill, and with the help of millionaire Clarence Gamble, who owned and funded the clinics to administer the pill, the trio were then ready for business. However, with all medications, they needed to test it. In 1937, Puerto Rico was one of the most densely populated countries in the world. They also had no birth control laws, and the women were believed to be uneducated. Qualifications for testing was the women had to be under 40 and with 2 children of their own already. 22% of the women dropped out. 17 of that had a wide range of side effects. Even 3 women mysteriously died. No autopsy was done to figure out what had killed them. The doctors concluded that the women were not smart enough to understand. The doctors also believed them to be making it up and proved them unreliable. On top of all of that, they did not tell the women that they were being tested and that this was an experiment. While the experiments were going on, the Negro Project up and started in 1939, and it was by Margaret Sanger and Clarence Gamble. The project was put in place in poverty-stricken locations to help African Americans have better access to contraception. The project did not last long due to Margaret not wanting to give up any leadership roles to African Americans. Sterilization laws continued until 1950s and slowed down in the 1960s when the birth control pill was finally released. Margaret Sanger died in 1966 from heart failure in Tucson, Arizona. Today, although many American women use birth control and it is proven to work, the route in which was taken and perhaps the reasoning behind was very unethical and racist. We should not remember Margaret Sanger for being the face of birth control, nor the founder of Planned Parenthood. In Manhattan, they have begun to take down Margaret Sanger's statues and her name off of Planned Parenthood. It is a start, however, it is not enough. We should stop those practices in places considered poverty level because that is where the locations are concentrated. Women of color are still suffering to this day, and us as a people need to know and remember where these things of this nature came from. Thank you.